The moment you stop watching others and start working on yourself, life stops delaying your success. Most people fail not because they lack talent, but because they keep measuring their life with someone else's ruler. Your breakthrough isn't hiding in people, it's hiding in the part of you that you keep ignoring. If you want to rise higher, the first battle you win must be against your own distractions, not anyone else. Self-focus is the starting point of every transformation, the root of every breakthrough, and the foundation of every great life. Most people spend their entire existence observing the world around them, watching what others have, how others live, what others achieve, yet they rarely pause long enough to ask themselves the one question that truly matters. Who am I becoming? The truth is, life doesn't change when your environment changes. Life changes when you change. The world outside will always shift, but the world within determines how far you rise, how fast you grow, and how deeply you succeed. When you focus on yourself, you reclaim the one thing that God, destiny, and life gave you complete control over, your inner world. You gain the power to reshape your beliefs, rewire your mindset, and rebuild your habits. You stop living reactively and start living intentionally. Instead of being pushed by circumstances, you become pulled by purpose. This shift, this quiet internal adjustment, is where real growth is born. The moment you stop worrying about who's ahead of you and who's behind you, you free yourself from the weight of comparison. Comparison distracts you from the path you're meant to walk. It convinces you that your story isn't good enough, that your progress isn't fast enough, that your blessings aren't big enough. And while you're staring at someone else's chapter 20, you forget that you're still writing your own chapter 1. When your eyes wander to others, your energy leaks. But when your eyes focus on you, your energy concentrates. And energy is the currency of growth. Self-focus builds clarity. When you stop measuring yourself against others, you start hearing your own voice again, your desires, your calling, your goals. Clarity is not just knowing what you want, it's knowing what no longer belongs in your life. It's recognizing which habits are holding you back, which fears are slowing you down, which people are draining your strength. And clarity gives you the courage to clean your life, refine your direction, and pursue your path with purpose. As you focus inward, you begin to see your weaknesses honestly, not to judge yourself, but to build yourself. You stop hiding from the areas that need growth and start developing them with discipline. You stop depending on motivation and start depending on consistency. Self-focus teaches you that every improvement, no matter how small, compounds over time. One new habit can reshape an entire future. One disciplined decision can shift the trajectory of your life. When you focus on yourself, you stop hoping for growth and start generating it. This is also where confidence grows, not from praise, not from validation, but from self-awareness. Confidence comes from doing the work no one sees. It comes from keeping the promises you make to yourself. It comes from choosing growth every single day, even when no one is watching. The more you invest in yourself, the more unshakable you become. While others chase attention, you chase mastery. While others compete for approval, you compete against your old self. And that is the only competition that actually changes your life. Self-focus also protects your peace. When you realize your value isn't defined by comparison, you stop being moved by noise, opinions, judgments, expectations. You stop living for applause and start living for alignment. Peace is power because a peaceful mind makes stronger decisions, takes bolder actions, and sees opportunities more clearly. When your energy is directed inward, you become less reactive to the world around you. Stress loses its grip, doubt loses its voice, fear loses its authority, and eventually something powerful happens. You start evolving rapidly. Not because life got easier, but because your focus got sharper. You begin to grow in places you were once stuck. You rise in areas where you once fell. You excel in areas you once avoided. The more you study yourself, the more you understand your potential. And the more you understand your potential, the more unstoppable you become. Focusing on yourself is not selfish. It is essential, because the greatest gift you can give to your future, to your family, and to your purpose is the strongest version of you. When you build yourself, you build everything connected to you. And that is where true success begins, with the decision to make yourself your greatest project. Comparison is one of the most silent, destructive forces in a person's life. It steals your energy without making a sound. It drains your confidence without leaving a trace. It distracts you from your path without you even noticing it happening. Most people don't fail because they're incapable. They fail because their attention is so wrapped up in what others are doing that they forget to water their own garden. They forget that success is not a race, it's a personal journey, and every moment spent measuring your life against someone else's is a moment stolen from the life you're supposed to build. The problem with comparison is simple. It makes you believe you're behind, even when you're exactly where you need to be. It tricks you into thinking someone else's blessing means there's less available for you. But life is not a buffet with limited plates. Someone else's victory does not reduce your chances. Someone else's progress does not slow your pace. Someone else's breakthrough does not delay your blessing. When you compare, you're not fighting them, you're limiting yourself. And comparison never tells the full story. You see someone's achievement, but you don't see the years they spent unnoticed. You see someone's success, but not the sacrifices that broke them. You see the chapter they're celebrating, not the chapters they cried through. Comparison makes you forget that everyone is fighting a battle you know nothing about. And the moment you compare your struggle to someone else's success, you lose sight of your own strength. Comparison also kills gratitude. When you focus on what others have, you blind yourself to what you've been given. You stop appreciating your growth, your wins, your progress. Gratitude is the fuel of motivation, but comparison empties that tank. It makes you believe you're lacking even when you're blessed. It convinces you you're failing even when you're growing. It replaces progress with pressure and joy with jealousy, and nothing powerful can grow in a mind filled with envy. But the most dangerous part about comparison is that it stops you from using your own gifts. You start doubting your voice because someone else's voice is louder. You start questioning your dream because someone else is already living theirs. You start shrinking because someone else is shining, and the world loses the version of you that was meant to rise. Comparison doesn't just distract you, it disconnects you from your purpose. When you stop comparing, something incredible happens. Your energy returns to you. All the focus you wasted watching others suddenly becomes power you can use to build yourself. You start noticing your strengths again. You start honoring your pace. You start trusting your own process. You stop being intimidated by someone else's success and start being inspired by it. You realize that you don't need to match their journey. You need to master yours. Energy is limited, and where you place it determines your results. If your energy goes into comparison, you'll live frustrated. But if your energy goes into growth, you'll live fulfilled. Growth requires focus, discipline, and patience, none of which are possible when your eyes are on someone else's life. The moment you stop comparing is the moment you start accelerating. When you choose to focus on your path, you unlock a level of peace that comparison could never offer. Peace gives you clarity. Clarity gives you direction. Direction gives you momentum. And momentum gives you breakthroughs. You begin to understand that your journey is uniquely designed for you. Your pace, your timing, your lessons, your blessings. No one can outrun you on the path that was created for you. And slowly, your life begins to feel lighter. Your progress becomes more visible. Your confidence grows stronger. You stop competing with people and start competing with your past self. You begin to ask better questions. How can I grow? Instead of why am I behind? What can I improve? Instead of why don't I have what they have? Oh, am I becoming? Instead of who do I need to beat? Comparison keeps you stuck in envy. Self-focus moves you into elevation. When you stop comparing, you stop delaying your destiny. You stop doubting your value. You stop questioning your purpose. You step into who you were meant to be, fully, confidently, unapologetically. You finally understand that success isn't about being better than others. It's about being better than who you were yesterday. And that shift, simple, quiet, internal, is the difference between a life of frustration and a life of fulfillment. When comparison dies, growth begins. Your habits are the architects of your future, silently shaping the direction of your life long before the results ever become visible. People often look at success as something magical, something that appears out of nowhere, but the truth is far simpler and far more powerful. Success is a reflection of your daily decisions. You don't rise when you want to rise. You rise when your habits force your life upward. You don't transform when motivation hits. You transform when discipline becomes your default. And the habits you choose today determine the person you become tomorrow. Every day, life hands you a set of choices, and each choice is a brick. A habit is just a brick you choose to lay repeatedly, brick by brick, day after day. You are building something, either a future you're proud of or a future you're trapped in. That's why habits matter. Not because they're dramatic, but because they're consistent. Not because they're loud, but because they're repeated. Your habits carry more power than inspiration, more power than dreams, and more power than intentions, because habits translate desire into reality. Many people wait for motivation to strike before they take action. They wait to feel ready, as if readiness is a requirement for progress. But the truth is, motivation comes and goes like weather, beautiful when it's present, unpredictable when it disappears. Habits, however, keep moving whether you feel like it or not. They don't ask for permission. They don't depend on mood. They create direction even on the days when you feel lost. When your habits are aligned with your goals, you become unstoppable because your actions carry you forward even when your emotions don't. But habits can be destructive as easily as they can be productive. Every small action you repeat is shaping you, your mindset, your confidence, your financial stability, your health, your identity. Skipping small responsibilities, procrastinating, complaining, avoiding discomfort, these habits don't harm you immediately, but they quietly erode your future. They build a life of regret one small moment at a time. And most people don't realize they're sabotaging themselves because destructive habits feel comfortable. They feel easy. They feel familiar. But comfort is the enemy of growth, and familiar is the enemy of elevation. On the other hand, powerful habits can change your entire identity. Waking up early trains discipline. Reading builds knowledge. Exercising builds resilience. Working on your goals each day builds momentum. Saying no to distractions builds focus. And every time you make a decision that aligns with the person you want to become, you reinforce that identity. Habits shape belief. Belief shapes behavior. And behavior shapes destiny. When you master your habits, you master your life. And here's something most people don't understand. Habits are not built in the moment of action. They're built in the moment of decision. The hardest part of any habit isn't doing the work, it's deciding to start. Once you start, the action follows. Once the action follows, repetition builds. And once repetition builds, identity forms. That's why the smallest decisions matter, whether you pick up the book or pick up the phone, whether you give excuses or give effort, whether you delay or begin. These tiny decisions shape the course of your entire life. Consistency is what separates dreamers from achievers. Anyone can take action once. Anyone can improve for a day. But real transformation comes from repeating the same simple behaviors over and over again until they become automatic. Success is built in the unglamorous moments, the early mornings, the late nights, the disciplined hours, when no one is watching. It's built in the routines most people overlook and the sacrifices most people avoid. And as your habits evolve, everything about your life evolves with them. Your mindset shifts because disciplined actions create disciplined thoughts. Your confidence strengthens because you trust yourself more. Your relationships improve because you attract what you become. Your goals feel attainable because your habits are moving you toward them every day. And slowly, without even realizing it, you become someone who doesn't just hope for success, you become someone who creates it. Habits don't just determine what you achieve, they determine who you become. They build your character. They define your reputation. They shape your work ethic. They write your story. You cannot rise higher than your habits will allow. So if you want a different future, you must write different routines. If you want a better life, you must practice better choices. If you want transformation, you must build the habits that support the version of you you're destined to become. Because the truth is simple, your habits are the blueprint of your life. And when you master them, you not only change your days, you change your destiny. Your mind is the control center of your entire life, the command station from which every decision, every action, every reaction is born. Before you ever win in the world, you must first win in your thoughts. Before you ever elevate your life, you must elevate your mindset. People often try to fix their circumstances without fixing their thinking, and that's why nothing changes. You cannot rise externally while remaining limited internally. Every breakthrough you desire, every transformation you dream of, every success you chase begins with one thing: mastering your mind. Your thoughts are not random, they are seeds. And seeds grow into beliefs. Beliefs grow into behaviors, and behaviors grow into results. If your thoughts are rooted in doubt, insecurity, fear, or comparison, they will produce actions that sabotage your progress. You cannot plant weak thoughts and expect strong results. You cannot fill your mind with negativity and expect a positive life. What happens in your mind does not stay inside. It shows up in your habits, your relationships, your confidence, your decisions, and your destiny. Most people don't fail because they lack talent or opportunity. They fail because they lose the battle in their mind long before they even start. They talk themselves out of dreams. They convince themselves they're not capable. They magnify their weaknesses until they become blind to their strengths. They let fear speak louder than faith. They allow the noise of the world to be louder than the truth inside them. And over time, their mind becomes a cage instead of a compass. But here's the powerful truth: your thoughts are not permanent. They can be trained. They can be disciplined. They can be reshaped. And when you learn to take control of your thoughts, you take control of your entire life. Mastering your mind begins with awareness. Becoming conscious of the thoughts you allow to live in your head. Every thought is either feeding your future or draining it. You must choose which ones you entertain. The mind loves patterns, and it will repeat whatever it is trained to repeat. If you consistently think thoughts of fear, your mind will naturally default to fear. If you consistently think thoughts of confidence and strength, your mind will default to power. Your results will always follow the direction of your dominant thoughts. That is why mental discipline is not optional. It is essential. To master your mind, you must first challenge the lies that have lived there for years. Those beliefs that say, you're not enough, you're too late, you'll never make it, you don't have what it takes. These are not truths. They are limitations disguised as logic. And limitations shrink your potential. When you begin replacing these lies with truth, power, and possibility, your entire identity begins to shift. You stop thinking as the old version of yourself and start thinking like the version of you who is capable, confident, and destined for more. Mastering your mind also means controlling your focus. Whatever you focus on expands. If you focus on problems, your problems grow. If you focus on fear, fear grows. But if you focus on solutions, solutions grow. If you focus on growth, growth happens. Your mind amplifies everything you pay attention to. So if you want a better life, you must give your thoughts better instructions. Another part of mental mastery is managing your emotions. Emotions are powerful, but they are not always truthful. Many people let their emotions dictate their decisions, and emotional decisions often lead to regret. When you learn to observe your emotions without being ruled by them, you begin making choices from clarity instead of chaos. You respond instead of react. You stay grounded instead of overwhelmed. You stay focused instead of distracted. Emotional discipline is a superpower, and it begins in the mind. As you strengthen your mental focus, something incredible begins to happen. Your confidence grows. Not because the world changed, but because you changed. You start believing in your power. You start respecting your potential. You start seeing opportunities where you once saw obstacles. You start moving with intention instead of hesitation. When your mind becomes strong, your life becomes strong. And the greatest reward of mastering your mind is freedom. Freedom from fear, freedom from doubt, freedom from comparison, freedom from insecurity, freedom from the pressure to be someone you're not. You begin walking through life with a sense of calm, clarity, and direction. You stop being controlled by circumstances and start being guided by purpose. Everything you desire, success, peace, discipline, purpose, growth, flows from the state of your mind. And when you learn to master it, you become unstoppable. You rise from places you once felt stuck. You overcome obstacles that once defeated you. You achieve goals that once felt impossible. Because a disciplined mind creates a disciplined life, and a disciplined life creates extraordinary outcomes. Your mind is your greatest weapon, your greatest tool, and your greatest advantage. When you win in your thoughts, you win everywhere else. Focus is one of the most powerful forces in the world, yet it is one of the most underestimated. Most people don't fail because they're not talented or because the opportunities aren't there. They fail because their attention is scattered in 1,000 directions. They are pulled by opinions, distracted by noise, drowned in comparison, and overwhelmed by the endless chaos around them. Distraction doesn't just waste time, it destroys potential. It takes your energy, divides it, and weakens it until you don't have enough strength left to build anything meaningful. But when you choose focus, true focus, everything in your life begins to accelerate. Distraction is subtle. It comes disguised as entertainment, as urgency, as curiosity, as comfort. It whispers just a few minutes and steals hours. It convinces you to check what others are doing instead of building something yourself. It pulls your attention toward things that feel good in the moment but do nothing for your future. And little by little, distraction teaches your mind to live reactively instead of intentionally. It makes you chase everything and catch nothing. When your attention is divided, your progress becomes slow, inconsistent, and fragile. Focus, on the other hand, is strength. When you direct your energy toward one purpose, one goal, one calling, something powerful happens. Your effort compounds. Your mind becomes sharper. Your decisions become clearer. Your discipline becomes stronger. Focus turns ordinary actions into extraordinary results because your energy stops leaking into places that have nothing to do with your destiny. When you focus on your path begins to open. The more you concentrate on what matters, the less time you waste on what doesn't. But focus requires courage. It requires the courage to say no to distractions, no to unnecessary obligations, no to people who drain your energy, and no to anything that does not align with your purpose. Focus means sacrificing the comfort of being everywhere so you can experience the power of being effective somewhere. It means choosing depth over noise, quality over speed, discipline over ease. Most people never reach their potential because they want to be everywhere at once. They want to please everyone, try everything, and explore every path. But the truth is simple: if everything is important to you, nothing is. When you focus, you gain momentum. Momentum is what happens when consistent effort meets time. It's the invisible push that makes progress feel natural. But momentum cannot exist in a distracted mind. It requires consistency, direction, and intensity. Focus builds that momentum day by day until your growth begins to feel almost unstoppable. You begin to accomplish in months what others struggle to do in years because your energy is no longer diluted. Focus also sharpens your awareness. When your attention is scattered, you miss opportunities because you're too busy looking at everything except what's in front of you. But when your focus is clear, you start noticing things that were always there, but hidden beneath your own distractions, ideas, solutions, paths, strengths. You recognize what deserves your time and what deserves to be ignored. You become more mindful, more intentional, more observant. And with awareness comes clarity. Clarity is a gift. It simplifies your decisions. It removes confusion. It eliminates unnecessary stress. When you're clear on where you're going, you no longer need to chase validation or approval. You stop being influenced by the noise of the world because you are anchored by your purpose. And once clarity anchors you, distraction loses its power. You stop wasting days, stop restarting goals, stop doubting your path. You begin walking with direction and living with intention. The more focused you become, the more powerful your presence becomes. People begin to feel your discipline. They sense your commitment. They see your progress. And opportunities start seeking you because focus breeds excellence. Excellence attracts everything you once had to chase. This is why focused people rise in life. They're not faster or smarter, they're simply less distracted. Ultimately, focus transforms you from being reactive to being unstoppable. It turns energy into results. It turns potential into achievement. It turns dreams into reality. When you choose focus, you choose power. You choose growth. You choose the highest version of yourself. And when you do that, your entire life begins to change. When you begin the journey of working on yourself, something extraordinary starts to shift, not just within you, but around you. The world begins to respond differently. Opportunities that once seemed distant start drawing closer. People who align with your purpose begin to enter your life. Confidence that once felt foreign begins to feel natural. And slowly, without forcing anything, you turn into a magnet for the very success you once chased. Self-mastery doesn't just change what you do, it changes who you become. And when who you become changes, everything connected to you transforms. Most people spend their lives chasing external validation, chasing praise, approval, recognition, status, and applause. But all of these things are temporary, unstable, unpredictable. They come and go based on opinions, trends, and circumstances. Self-mastery, however, is internal. It is built in silence, strengthened in discipline, born in consistency, and protected by character. When you become someone who is grounded, disciplined, and focused, the world sees it, even without you saying a word. Your presence begins to carry a different weight. Your aura becomes stronger. Your decisions become sharper, and your path becomes clearer. Self-mastery starts with understanding who you are and what you value. When you recognize your strengths, acknowledge your weaknesses, confront your fears, and commit to growing daily, you build a version of yourself that is no longer reactive to life. You become intentional. Instead of being tossed around by emotions or controlled by circumstances, you start guiding your own direction. This kind of internal strength is rare, and because it's rare, it's valuable. People are drawn to those who are steady in a world full of instability. When you master your inner world, your outer world begins to reflect that growth. Confidence shows up in your posture, in your speech, in your decisions. Clarity shines through your actions. Discipline becomes evident in the results you produce. People begin to trust you, follow you, respect you, not because you demand it, but because you embody it. This is one of the greatest secrets of life. You attract what you become. If you want better opportunities, become a better version of yourself. If you want meaningful relationships, become someone who embodies meaning. If you want success, become someone who can sustain success. Self-mastery also creates alignment. When your habits, beliefs, goals, and actions align, life stops feeling chaotic. Your decisions become easier because they're rooted in purpose. You stop second-guessing yourself because you trust your direction. And you stop entertaining distractions because you know what deserves your energy. Alignment creates momentum, and momentum creates results that make others wonder how you're advancing so quickly. Another powerful benefit of self-mastery is emotional stability. Many people fail not because of a lack of ability, but because they are controlled by their emotions: fear, insecurity, frustration, impatience. When these emotions dominate your life, your decisions become weak and inconsistent. But when you master your emotions, you gain the ability to respond with wisdom instead of reacting with impulse. You learn to stay calm in chaos, confident during uncertainty, and grounded during adversity. This emotional strength becomes a superpower in every part of your life. As you continue to grow internally, your standards rise. You stop tolerating behaviors, environments, and excuses that once held you back. You expect more from yourself, not in a way that pressures you, but in a way that elevates you. You demand honesty from your thoughts, discipline from your habits, and excellence from your efforts. And the moment your standards rise, your results rise with them. Life begins to match the level you operate at, and eventually something powerful happens. The success you once ran after starts running after you. You no longer chase opportunities, opportunities chase you. You no longer try to fit into spaces. You become someone who creates new spaces. You no longer seek validation. You become someone whose presence validates the room. This is the quiet power of self-mastery. It turns you into a magnet for greatness without you ever having to beg for it. When you work on yourself, you don't just change your life, you change your identity. You evolve into someone who attracts success naturally, not accidentally. You become the kind of person who doesn't just dream, but builds, who doesn't just wish, but works, who doesn't just hope, but grows. And that transformation, internal, intentional, powerful, is what makes self-mastery the greatest investment you will ever make. Your life will change the day you realize the world doesn't need a better version of them. It needs the best version of YOU. Focus on yourself so deeply that your success becomes the loudest answer to every doubt, every fear, and every comparison. When you master yourself, you don't chase success. Success gets pulled into your life like gravity. So walk your path, build your strength. Fix your mind and watch how your focus turns into a future you once only dreamed of